So you said your father ended up committing suicide, right? Can you
Yeah.
take us through what happened and then how you found out?
Yeah. So what had happened was that there was one day that my dad was drinking. He was in the bar and he had a gun with him and he literally had bullets. He had like 5 bullets. And my cousin was there, my oldest cousin. And I guess he was like drunk and like every bullet he would like say somebody's name. Like he'll say my mother's name, then he'll say my name. And he just told my cousin, like, yo, like I'm gonna take my life and I'm taking my family with me. So this was after he tried to commit suicide before. He threatened my mother that he was gonna kill her eventually. So my cousin had called my mother and told her, hey, leave the house. He's on his way there, and he's got a gun. And my mother, she didn't know how to drive, so she took one of the cars and she drove from Ponce to San Juan at that time. I think it was like a 3-hour drive. And she didn't know how to drive, but like literally I could remember like she was just like driving crazy. And we ended up at my aunt's house. Now my sister, my dad was abusive. He sexually abused my sister when she was little. So when my sister was 13, she moved from Puerto Rico with her boyfriend to the United States. So she fled the island and came over here to the U.S. So that day when that happened, that my mother left to San Juan, somehow within that week, we were sent over here to the United States to my sister's man's family. And they took us in. They got us into an apartment. So we fled from my dad. Like my mother fled. And for a while, she was hearing that he was doing better. He wanted to go back with her. He stopped drinking. I hear stories of like my uncles in church, and he was like, yo, come to church. He ended up going to church. But one day, my sister had went back to Puerto Rico, and he ended up going to her and apologized to her. And, my sister, in all of her right, she didn't forgive him for what he did to her. So that day, he ended up getting drunk. He went to the back of the house, my granddad's house, and he hanged himself with barbed wire. He put barbed wire around his neck and like just dropped hard on his knees, I guess. And that's how my grandfather found him.
And what was your reaction when you found out that this happened?
It was late at night, and all I could remember is I was in my room, and my mother at this time, she was with my stepfather now, and all I could hear is like a scream like I've never heard before. To this day, I've never heard anybody scream the way that my mother screamed. That's how I found out.
Like a shriek.
Yeah, man, it was the worst. It was the worst thing I ever heard in my life. Never heard anything in a movie, in a song, anything, man. And that's how I found out that my dad had committed suicide.
And for you, I mean, this is a terrible thing for anybody to go through, right? But how did you internalize that as a child?
I didn't. Again, nobody talked to me about it. Nobody said with me and asked me if I was okay, how I felt. I kind of just went with the flow. And up to when I was like 15, that's when I started like, when I started thinking about it. And it's crazy how life is and how, rebellious we are against our parents or the parent that's taking care of us. That I started thinking that it was my mother's fault that he committed suicide, and I started blaming her. And that's kind of what got me away from her and closer to the streets. I didn't want to be around her.
Got you. Okay.